let's talk about what SEC team do you think is best set up for success moving forward?
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first on this?
I mean, I'll go first. I think the two best.
Don't take mine. No, just one. Don't cheat. Just your best, and then you
Fine.
can go with your other one.
Fine. I think Georgia is the team most set up for success. I think that Kirby is a proven coach. I think that he kind of has it clicking on all cylinders. You can't always, be at the top unless you're Nick Saban, but he's gone. So here we are. This is what was considered Georgia's down year, and it was not that down. They still made the playoffs. They won an SEC championship game. I think Georgia will be back. And I think they are most set up for success.
So they're my number two. I have Texas.
Yeah.
And
Texas is as good a coach as Kirby. So that's why I had them flipped.
Yeah. So my thought on Texas is I think Sark is probably the next best coach, behind Kirby.
Sure.
And so
number two in the SEC, right? Like, coaching going on there.
I think the fact that their schedule was set up for them to have some success. But I do think the fact that they made the SEC championship in year one was impressive. I thought the fact that they probably played, or not probably, they played Ohio State better than anybody else in the playoff was promising. I don't know if Kirby's going to kind of turn into that guy that, Sark can just never beat, but small sample size so far. So we'll see. But my biggest thing with Texas or the biggest two things to me, and we've seen Kirby dominate recruiting, but I think that Texas has the advantage from the recruiting aspect. Yeah. Number one, I think they'll invest more, right? Like whatever this cap that is going to be in, we talked about the Department of Education and stuff last week. Whatever this cap is going to be, I think Texas in the SEC will probably exceed it by the most. I think they'll put the most money into resources. I think they have the most money to put into it. And then two, I think that Texas doesn't often lose guys from that state that they want to keep.
That's
right.
True.
And I know A&M's there, but Clemson recruits Georgia really well. Florida and Florida State both recruit, because Florida State's just 40
also
minutes.
Doesn't have as much to choose from talent-wise as Texas does. Like Georgia has good high school football. Texas has great
and they don't.
That's
they different. Have to fight. They have to fight with A&M a little bit, so I'll give them that. But Georgia fights with Clemson, Florida, Florida State, Alabama, Auburn, and South Carolina. Yeah, for that Georgia. And so to me, it all comes down to players. And I do think Kirby's a better coach. But to me, Texas there's a program with the most resources and the best recruiting advantage in the SEC.
I did tour their facilities when we went to Austin for the game there, and they are the most impressive college football facilities that I have personally been in. I've been in most facilities in the SEC. I've been in some for other conferences as well, but Texas is by far the most impressive facilities that I have ever been in, not just for football, but across the board. Their campus itself is incredibly impressive. Austin is a really fun town, still has that college town feel to it, but also is, a big city as well, which has got to be appealing to recruits and their families. It's really easy to get to, which is, another draw for people elsewhere outside of the state of Texas. But I personally think, everything else equal, Kirby is a better coach than Sark. That's not a knock on Sark. I think he's the second best coach in the SEC. I think if he got an offensive coordinator, he'd be the first best coach in the SEC, but that seems to be a conference-wide issue with people giving up.
What about this? Sark recently got an extension, and the report was that a couple of NFL coaches or teams called, and he said, no, I'm not even going to interview. I'm going to lock in here and do this. Now, I'll tell you this. I could not see Kirby Smart coaching the NFL, but his name does come up. When the Falcons job is open, and he's never I'm not saying that this is me telling you he's going to go to the NFL, but he's never shot it down like Sark did. So to me, long term, if you're a Georgia fan, are you not anywhere near Harbaugh? Everybody knew Harbaugh was going, but are you a little bit well, he could go to the NFL type thing, and obviously that turns Georgia on its head too. I think Sark is not from a hot seat perspective at all, but I think Sark is probably a little bit more locked into Texas than Kirby might be at Georgia.
So, did you see the interview that Nick Saban did with the Pivot, my friend Channing Crowder, and company
Oh,
over
name
there?
drop.
He 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 talked about the fact that one of his biggest regrets was leaving LSU and going to the Dolphins. And essentially, you know, you are a college coach or a pro coach. There is very, very few that can do both. And, Saban is the GOAT as far as I'm concerned in college football. And he struggled in the NFL, right? And so I think Kirby is a college coach through and through. I think you would see the same kind of outcome as you did for Urban Meyer, as you did for Steve Spurrier, as you did for Nick Saban. Most people are not Pete Carroll, right? Most are the Steve Spurriers and the Urban Meyers and the Nick Sabans, and they dominate college. And part of why they dominate college is the psychological advantage that they have over their players. That is not something that works when your team is making more money than you are. Sark, for some reason, I feel like I liken him a little bit more to Pete Carroll than I do the others. And so it's interesting that he's so dialed in, because if I had to pick somebody that I think maybe could be successful, he might be one of them. But, I don't know. I think you're one or the other. They're interested in Kirby. I don't think that would ever pan out, but it is interesting that, he never calms the rumors, but maybe that's because his agent tells him don't. It helps me out.
Could you see Lane in the NFL?
I mean, Lane was in the NFL. I saw Lane in the
Oh,
NFL.
yeah.
I saw how that went. So I don't
back.
think Lane is ever going back to the NFL. Yeah, no.